the human mind is 1/50th of the body's mass, and it uses and consumes 1/5 of the body's energy. It's a lot of energy. So when we're in the world of mind, how many of you have taken Gremlin Taming with Aaron? Okay, so we have an indication. The author of the book Gremlin Taming, Taming Your Gremlin, Rick Carson, tells us that there's really only 3 places that we can be. We can be present, like we are right now. Ben, present, like we are right now. And I'm just, because you were just a little adrift, or with each other, or in the moment. Or we can be present internally in our body, which means we're focusing on our breath, or we're focusing on what's happening from the top of our head to the tip of our toes. Or we could be in the world of mind. And usually when we're in the world of mind, the mind is taking us either to the future and playing scary movies. How many of you have experienced that? About what's going to be happening, right? Or it's taking us back to our past and it's beating ourselves up for something that maybe we should have done or that we could have done. And those, we were talking last night, Terrell, about how much energy that can take from us. And I know personally, I can't speak for anyone else, that when I'm in the world of mind, that regret or that scary movie, it could take anywhere between 30 to 90% of my mental energy. And so if we really process that and think about that, the intention of yoga, translated, literally means union of mind, body, and breath. So this is a tool, it's a hack, an easy hack, if we're willing to try it, that will bring all of that together and we are present in this moment. So that's the intention of yoga. So let's just start off. We'll stand up. We're going to do a little bit of movement. Let's start by creating a little energy, bringing the palms of our hands together, and breathe. If there's anything that causes your mind to go adrift during this class, the one thing that's going to bring it back is your breath. Go right to your breath. That's a place where we can be centered. Now take this energy and this heat, let's transfer it to our body. Gently press and release into the neck. And don't forget to breathe. So as we're doing this, I want to talk a little bit about the lungs. Gently press and release, working your way down to the shoulders also. And this, by the way, gentlemen, is your hour for you. We're giving back to you right now. We put a lot of energy and effort into this weekend. So take this time and give it to yourself. So press and release. And then let's just simply shake the hands out. Shake off that energy. Now bring the hands in front of us. And on the inhalation, bring the fingertips to the sky. Breathe in a little bit more as you press the fingertips between the shoulders. And as you exhale, we're going to gently drag the fingertips across the shoulders, collarbone, and upper chest. And then just shake it out and release. And breathe. Yep. Inhale one more time. Inhale, fingertips come to the sky. Inhale more, press the fingertips between the shoulder blades. Exhale, slowly drag the fingertips across the shoulders, upper collarbones, and chest. And shake it out. One more time like this. Inhale, fingertips up. Inhale, press the fingers between the shoulder blades. Exhale, slowly drag the fingertips across the shoulders, collarbone, and upper chest. And then shake it out. Now let's bring our feet about hip width apart. Hip distance apart, toes facing forward. And we're going to do a gentle rotation of the spine, which is just going to move the synovial fluid up and down the spine, and it's going to wake us up a little bit. And this is how it's going to go. The arms are like rag dolls. They're passive. And as you twist to the right, look to your left ankle. And as you twist to the left, look to your right ankle, bringing your focus and your awareness to the body, and don't forget to breathe. And gently allow that motion to come to a pause without forcing. Now we're going to take our right hand and we're going to tap it to our right leg, left hand to our left leg. And as you do this, I encourage you to pick one spot on the floor in front of you and just make it your focus point. And in yoga, we know this as our drishti. And just breathe in and out through the nose. Gently pause the motion. Now make cactus arms like this. And we're going to bring our right elbow to our left knee, left elbow to our right knee. What's comfortable for you without forcing, okay? We did a lot of doing this weekend. Yoga is not about doing. Yoga is about undoing so that the body can receive. And if you can't get the knee all the way to your shoulder or to your elbow, that's okay. Just listen to your body. And in fact, listen to your body because it's a much better instructor than I am. Your body's going to tell you if this is correct or if this is right for you. And if you need to back off a little bit, then that's what you do. Okay, gently pause. Let's bring big toes together. Heels slightly apart. And if you guys are okay with it, take your socks off. You'll get a little bit better traction on the mat. And it'll allow you to feel more grounded. Okay, so on an in-breath, we're going to open the arms up, look up, open the heart up, bring shoulder blades together, breathing in fully and completely. And as we exhale, we're going to bring right arm over the left arm. We're going to wrap our arms around ourselves, hug ourselves, and round forward what's comfortable for us without forcing. Bending the knees so that you're supporting yourself with your thighs. Allow the head and the neck to fully relax. Exhale completely, squeezing the abdomen at the end of the exhalation. Now relax the abdomen. As you breathe in, come up, open up. Arms open. Shoulder blades come together, look up. Heart is exposed and open to the sky. Exhale, now rounding forward, bringing the left arm over the right arm, hugging yourself, and bring your gaze to your heart. Exhalation fully and completely. And as you breathe in, open up. Look up. Heart comes up. Shoulder blades come together. Exhale, rounding forward. Right arm over left. At the end of your exhalation, squeeze the abdomen, squeezing out any residual air or toxins. As you breathe in, open up. Shoulder blades come together. Heart comes to the sky, look up. And as you exhale, bring heart, spine, everything to a neutral position. And let's shake out arms and shake out legs. Okay, so let's bring big toes together, heels slightly apart, palms facing forward. And as we breathe in, I want you to think about the crown of your head, which is right here. As you breathe in, I want you to raise the crown of the head up, which is going to create space between the vertebrae. And as you exhale, look out over your left shoulder. As you breathe in, center the head, facing forward. Exhale, look out over that opposite shoulder. Breathing in, center the head. Exhale, look out over that opposite shoulder. Now we're going to hold this pose for a moment. So, your gaze is over your left shoulder. And as you breathe in, I want you to think about relaxing the shoulders and allow the crown of the head to raise up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, maintain the pose and look out over that left shoulder. Pick a spot with your eye and focus on that spot. And see if you can move the head and neck just a millimeter further without forcing. And as you breathe in, crown of the head comes up, relax the shoulders down from the ears. And as you exhale, pick that spot a little bit further and see if you can move the head and neck just a little bit further.
Today, we interviewed a billionaire. Have you ever interviewed a billionaire before? First time.
First time. What exactly is an FLQA?
And what percentage of Amazon does
Bezos owns like 10%.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
People think that you have to own 100% of something, and they won't give pieces of the pie away.
Once you get people thinking like owners, they treat the business differently. They treat the company differently, for sure.
Let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent. It's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
We're a family, kumbaya.
We're a family, but if you watch their actions,
No.
their actions are completely different
Agreed.
than what they're saying. So this is the part that I was tripping out. How much production would you have to do to own a piece of your brokerage?
I always ask agents, I'm like, did you go to the office? And they're like, no. And I'm like, did it matter? Let's check it out.
Hey everybody, Jose Luis Morales here and
Aaron Novello, and we have with us the founder of EXP himself, Mr. Glenn Sanford. We really appreciate you taking some time to be with us here today, Glenn. And I wanted to say to you formally, thank you very much for the opportunity, for seeing what it is that you saw, and for having the kind of mindset and the mental map that as you give away pieces of the pie gets bigger for everybody.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's the and that is the sort of the basic secret. You saw the one slide yesterday. Somebody had the Zig Ziglar quote: "You can have anything you want in life if you just help other people get what they want."
Yes.
And that's the whole idea. That's the idea of the pie always getting bigger, based on creating ways to help more people.
Yeah, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that very big decision, which is directly in alignment with that, which is to lower the amount of FLQAs that are required in order to unlock all 7 levels. Was that part of that decision-making process?
Yeah.
When Glenn was answering that question, I wanted to break that down, right? Because one of the questions that me and Jose get all the time is, what exactly is an FLQA? And it stands for Frontline Qualifying Agent. And what it means is that if you have brought somebody to the company and they've put you down as the reason why they joined the company, then if they do at least $5,000 worth of commission dollars to EXP, right? So there's a $16,000 cap, and as long as they pay $5,000 towards that cap, they become an FLQA. And the FLQAs, the certain number of them, they unlock subsequent lines of rev share. Now, this is a very key distinction, because some of the things that me and Jose, people have been sharing with us is they think, about like Real or these other companies. And what I want to share with you right now is that Real has a different compensation plan where you must have a certain amount of FLQAs in order to unlock subsequent lines of rev share. And if you don't have those FLQAs, you will receive no rev share on those subsequent lines. Versus with EXP, you will receive rev share on subsequent lines even if you don't have the appropriate number of FLQAs. It just won't be the full amount. So if you're interested and sincerely going to be focused on agent attraction, that's a super key distinction between compensation plans.
Yeah. What I liked about that part of the interview too is I liked how you opened it up with a compliment.
Well, thank you.
So I think that's a really good way to start and I've noticed you do that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Whenever you start talking to somebody, you either say, "Oh, I watched this video of yours," or "I appreciate you," or "I appreciate that."
Yeah.
I think that's a gift. So just want to compliment you on that.
Thanks, brother.
The other thing that I noticed is that he said if you help enough people get what they want in life, you can have anything that you want.
Yeah.
And that's really the key to having anything that you want in life, is you're helping other people get what they want. So like, even as I transition more into rev share, what I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to help people produce more in real estate,
Which is what they want.
and that's going to give me everything that I want and need, basically. But in order for me to get to what I want, I got to help them get to what they want.
Yeah, that's critical. And the other thing that I want everybody to be clear on too is that EXP very recently made a big change. And the change was previously the compensation plan was in order to unlock all 7 levels. So in other words, in order to get full rev share on all 7 levels, you're still going to get it on all 7 even if you don't have the appropriate frontline qualifying agents. In order to get the full amount, in the past you needed 40 FLQAs. So you needed 40 agents that you personally have recruited that have paid at least $5,000 in company dollar, right? So they do a few transactions a year, and they recently lowered that to 30.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting, and what you'll see when we, go back to the video, is the thought behind that. The reason behind that is that Glenn wanted to make that more attainable for more agents, right? which I think is awesome. And in my opinion, it's also slamming the kind of the gas pedal down, in terms of growth. And again, that goes in alignment with as you make the pie, as you give pieces of the pie away, the pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That you read my mind about sharing a piece of the pie. A lot of people think that the way to make it is to sometimes even run their own company or start their own company.
Yeah.
And they'd rather own 100% of a $500,000 company versus 1% of a $1 billion
That's
company.
right.
Like what is Amazon? What percentage of Amazon does
Bezos own? Like 10%.
Of Amazon.
Yeah.
And he's that 10%.
He's like one of the richest guys in the world, if not the richest.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
So
same with Elon. He only owns like 20% of like his company.
And that's what I love about that. Like a lot of times people think that you have to own 100% of something, like any type of business, and they won't give pieces of the pie away, not knowing that if you give pieces of the pie away, it actually builds a much bigger pie. And even if you have a 10% percentage, like maybe somebody like Glenn or Elon or Jeff Bezos, that you're still a billionaire in that sense.
Yeah.
And now everybody's in alignment as to what the goal is, because everyone's thinking like an owner now.
100%. And that's one of the things that we talked about, which is that what it does is it creates an environment in which all of the agents and all of corporate, they feel a sense of ownership versus having like a king at the top or a queen and they own the majority. This is distributed amongst others. And once you get people thinking like owners, they treat the business differently. They treat the company differently, for sure.
Not only that, but it allows you to attract A players as well too, because it's an A opportunity. Like, for example, like I have a broker's license. I could open up my own real estate company if I wanted to. I know agents in my market that opened up their own brokerage. And I'm like, well, why would I go through that where this gives me everything?
You can outsource the brokerage to EXP
without any of the negative or downsides of a brokerage, basically. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
All right, so let's get back to it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we recognized is that for very diligent agents that are really building, there were a couple things. One, the economy is a little tougher, so we got agents that are just leaving the business less productive. So it's harder to open up those bigger levels.
Sure.
And then two was we wanted to make it more achievable for the average agent who actually put in the work.
Sure.
And so those are the two things that we thought about. Obviously, we've got some we'll call it some formulas in terms of how we structure the sustainable rev share and adjusted GCI. And the idea was, one, let's make it a little bit easier to get to the larger payouts, but then also at the same time, let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent that's in agent attraction as well. So we're kind of bumping up levels 1 through 3 payouts through our AGCI program, and then using some of that other monies to go there, and it really makes it a much more democratized rev share model. And that's really sort of the democratization, so it's not just a select few, it's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so my takeaway from that is that by augmenting and making it easier to unlock all 7 levels, it's actually being purposeful and intentional to help more people participate at a higher level.
So he's basically giving more money away.
Yes.
What I love about this part, it just showcases how great of a CEO Glenn Sanford is.
Yeah.
I think one of the models that he has is that EXP is the most agent-centric.
Hold on. I want to show the Rolly, Aaron.
He wasn't in the fucking Rolly. That's for rich people, not for us. It's dumb. You know it's dumb. You just want it and you do it. Money is a game. And if you were going to play a game, one of the first questions you would ask players like me and Jose, who have played the game successfully, is what are the rules and how do you win? Money should be a fun thing to talk about, bro.
Novello, I want to pay you a compliment, bro. You're looking buffer.
Thanks,
now.
brother. Let's go. Lots of time, energy, and effort. You want to play games that if you wait, you win, because nobody's willing to play those games. It's a shame that people don't do seminars that fuck up.
You want to pay attention to this, guys.
The chat is disabled. We want to make sure that the chat is enabled so we can participate with all these lovely, fine human beings. What's up, JP? Who else we got? Kevin Sandoval's in the house. What's up, brother? So I want you guys, as we are getting ready to enable this chat, start to think about concepts you have about money. Start to think about concepts you have about investing. Think about what your family of origin taught you about money. My family of origin, despite being kind and nice, were doing the best they could under the circumstances. Yo, we got this shit working. Clap it up for the sexy Mexican, Mr. Jose Luis Morales. He figured that shit out. Let's go.
All right, everybody, my job is done.
What I was saying is drop in the comments, the sexy Mexi, let's go. Drop in the comments some of the concepts that you learned from your family of origin about money. I know about me, I learned things like money doesn't grow on trees. And a penny saved is a penny earned, which is bullshit because it's just a penny. And eat all the food on your plate, right? And these are all concepts about scarcity and there not being enough. So Dropnik says, I learned how to spend money. Okay, that's cool. Who else has some concepts that you learned from your family of origin? Or maybe your family didn't talk about money. Maybe they didn't have any, so they didn't talk about it. Or it's like a taboo topic, can't afford it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a very interesting mindset, right? That's for rich people, not for us. JP, I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. Do what you love. Yeah. Eat everything on your plate. Kids are starving in China. Now notice, isn't this interesting? Even though we didn't grow up in the same houses, even though we didn't have the same parents, save it for a rainy day, we were still getting the same type of programming. Because remember that your bodies are the hardware, your brain is the software. And 65% of us grew up in environments where we lived paycheck to paycheck. That was my experience. Okay. So I heard all of these things, about money, and it's very similar themes. Doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't come fast. Eliseo wrote that, right? Eat all the food on your plate. Kids are starving. But all these, if you are aware, are really concepts about scarcity and there not being enough. And that can end up affecting you. Now, on the other end, Dropnik's writing that what he heard is spend it all because you can't take it with you. So as a younger person, his people that are doing a lot of the programming are saying, hey, spend it all because you can't take it with you. So on both ends, that can end up affecting your relationship with money. Okay. So on one end, because remember, building wealth, it's a 3-step process, 3-tiered. The first is earning it. Now, if you plug in with us and you ride with us at the Elite Builders, we're going to pour into you and teach you exactly what to say and how to say it, the activities and the kind of disciplines with consistency that were required in order to earn your unfair share of money. That's great.
Hold on. I want to show the Rolly, Aaron.
I'm kidding. He wants to see the fucking Rolly. Let's go. Hey, but I'll talk to you about how I followed the rules on getting that. Right? Because there's 3 rules if you're going to do something stupid. The first is if you can't pay for it twice in cash, you can't afford it. The second is it's got to come out of cash flow, not earned income. And the third is that I got to go find another one once it sells, right? It doesn't compound over time. So what we need to be doing is learning how to use our time to raise money and then use that money to buy back time. This is just a game. Money is a game. And if you were going to play a game, one of the first questions you would ask players like me and Jose who have played the game successfully is, what are the rules and how do you win? Because if I don't know the rules, I can't play the game properly and therefore I can't win. Okay. So that's the intention today is me and Jose are going to be going over like our journeys from a financial perspective. And we're at different kind of places chronologically. Jose's a little bit younger than me, not much. I'm 42, he's 36. And we each took different kind of paths to financial freedom and independence. They both work though. So we'll be going over those different strategies and techniques that we've utilized. The other thing that we'll be doing as well is going over a vehicle that we are now both a part of that trumps the investments that we've made, that will outpace cash flow wise, millions of dollars worth of invested capital in assets, whether they be, hard assets like real estate or paper assets like equities and stuff. So drop in the comments and the chat
if you are ready to receive this information. Let me see some fires. Let me see some exclamation points. Let's get this party started right. Let's go on this Friday.
The music, Novello, the music.
Oh, hold on, my bad. Dang, bro. Wait. I need the music while we're doing this. 1 second. Let's end the show. Let's get back to the music. Oh man, here it comes. Money should be a fun thing to talk about, bro. It should not be something that's like, that's taboo. I don't want it. It's fun, dude. Right? When you learn how to play this game, I promise you, it'll be super fun.
Novello, I want to pay you a compliment, bro. You're looking buffer.
Thanks,
now.
Brother. Let's go.
That's crazy.
Lots of time, energy, and effort. So, all right, cool. So now I'm going to share my screen. What I'll do is I'll just share with you briefly like my experience. So, my family of origin, they're super nice people, as I was mentioning. I don't think they ever made more than I don't think they ever made more than $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So I would. Oh, that's right. I do love rev share. So I don't think they ever made more than $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So I watched them growing up. Money was always an issue. I watched them fight about it. I would watch my mom lie to my dad about how much my sneakers cost because she couldn't tell me no when I wanted, Jordans or whatever. And I watched it just be this like really point of contention. And 58% of 50%, 51% of first marriages end in divorce, but 58% of those end because of financial reasons. So I remember watching that and having a couple of experiences in my life where I just made this internal decision like, hey, I never want that to be my experience, nor the experience of anybody that is in proximity to me or that is dependent on me, right? So I didn't know what the way was, but I was either going to find the way or make the way. So I began to study, as you can see, I like to read. I began to study wealth, right? And that's the first question that I want you guys to ask yourself if you're taking notes. Am I a serious student of wealth, right? Do I read books, listen to podcasts on a regular basis? Am I constantly consuming information? I've probably, no lie, not like an exaggeration, have read 50 plus books on the topic of investing and financial, like kind of stability, freedom, independence, things of that nature. So if I was to look at your library, would I say, hey, are you a serious student of this topic? Because all the information's out there, right? And it's relatively free. So I started to really study obsessively about building wealth, and I had a tendency to gravitate towards real estate. So I got my real estate license thinking, okay, what better way to learn about the vehicle of investing in real estate than to help people buy and sell it, right? So, and what I quickly began to realize, that's me and my lovely, beautiful wife, Carla. Follow her on Instagram, Elite Ladies Builders, let's go. What I realized very quickly about real estate when I got in the game is first I had to learn how to sell real estate in high volume. I had to learn how that's a combination of the skills that are required, prospect, lead, follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate deals, and then systems, right, on processing things that allowed me to get that up to 200 transactions a year, did over 100 a year for 10 years in a row. But I found myself at probably 37 years old with a meaningful net worth, a couple $1 million, but I didn't have a lot of cash flow. So I didn't feel wealthy, and I felt as though like I was still, having to hustle at like a super high level. So I realized that what I was doing was not in alignment with my goals and objectives. The information that I was being told, like, pay my house off and put all my money in retirement accounts. And I heard Grant Cardone say something which really blew my mind. He said, doing that is another form of poverty. And I was like, what did he just say? But the truth is that I didn't have access to either one of those things. I can't take my wife on a trip with the money in the house, the equity in the house. I can't pay off, can't pay for my kids' private school with the retirement fund, right? So then I began to alter kind of strategy and approach, and that's radically changed things, right? Went from that experience to now, financial freedom and independence where assets pay for living expenses. So this slide that you see up in front of you, real estate is a wonderful mechanism to raise cash, but it doesn't compound. So if you notice, I got to take time to go get money, and then and people stop there, right? They take time to go get money, but what you need to be doing is taking money and getting back time, going back in the opposite direction. But real estate flows this way: time, money, then I got to go spend time to get more money, time to get more money, time to get more money. There's no compounding component, okay? Now, we need to get back time, okay? because the average human gets 27,550 days on planet Earth. It's about average, about 75 years in the industrialized world. Women have a tendency a little bit more than men, but that's what's average. I'm 42, so I've used more than half, right? Whatever's left, I'm going to sleep through a third of it. When I went through this exercise, it's maybe like 25, 27, 30 years left of waking, breathing, living life. So I need to find vehicles that compound and that allow me to buy back time. In order to buy back time, I can do that in two ways. I either purchase assets that may pay me money, or I hire staff, which is human capital. We're going to focus on this one, which is purchasing assets that make money. Okay. Now, in order to invest, it's always interesting to me that people, they'll want to come to me and Jose and have conversations about, like investing. And I'm always like, well, do you have any money to invest? And it's always like, well, no. It's like, well, then why are we having this conversation? Right? So you have to create margin first in order to invest. And margin is the difference between what you have and what you need. Okay. Now, what margin is with what I have and what I need, there's a spread in between. So in other words, I have more than I need. That's margin. Okay. Now, if you have exactly what you need, right, you make yourself very vulnerable to market gyrations, market corrections, something going on. Now, most people, 60+% of Americans live this way. What they have and what they need are the same. Now, if something happens, like a market changes or revenue changes or whatever, something externally, you're not able to work for a month or whatever, then they have negative margin. And another word for negative margin is debt. Okay. So we need to put ourselves in a situation where we have margin to invest, right? And you can't change what you don't measure. So what I would propose or suggest is writing out monthly personal expenses and business expenses. When me and Carla first started this, we would do that on an Excel spreadsheet. I know Jose Mariela helps him with that. Is really accounting for how much income is coming in and how much income is leaving. Okay. And there should be, again, margin there, right? The second thing you could do is to list out streams of income. Now, it might only be, residential resale at the moment, but the goal and objective is to get many streams of income, not just one. Because in the military, they say 2 is 1 and 1 is none, right? So if I have, or if I have 1 of something, I have none. But if I have 2 of something and something goes away, then I'm okay, right? So 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So I want to get multiples. And if you have leftover, again, between personal and business expenses and income, if there's money left over, that's margin. Now the question is what do you do with that? Okay. Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to get out of debt. If you have any revolving debt, that's high interest rate. That would be things like credit card debt. That would be things like, car payment debt. Those are usually higher. And particularly the credit cards are 15, 17, 20%. You want to get rid of that first. So take that margin and you want to start what's called a snowball effect. So let's say you have credit card debt that you have 3 different credit cards. One has the highest interest rate. You take that margin and knock that one out. Then you take whatever the minimum payment was plus the margin and knock the next one out, so on and so forth, right? Because those things eat away your margin and your ability to be able to invest. And I want everybody to hear me. And again, me and Jose are not financial planners, okay? We are not financial kind of professionals. We are individuals that have self-educated ourselves on this process and use it as a mechanism to create financial freedom for ourselves and other people. So, you can do what you want, but this is what I did. And most people, there's 4 things that eat up the majority of their money: housing, transportation, food, and insurance. But 2 of them, the housing and the transportation, almost always have debt associated with them. Plus you add in credit cards, there's not enough money left over to be able to invest. And you have to invest, okay, to keep up with inflation and in order to get additional streams of income. So what you want to do is pay off the highest revolving debt first and then create a snowball effect. Once you pay that off, take whatever that payment was and whatever margin is and attack the next one. You knock it all out and now you have this additional income that you can use towards investing. The second step is you want to get a reserve, okay? 3 to 6 months of capital that's liquid at all times. Now, Jose, which he'll share with you in his experience,
Sometimes he wouldn't do that. He would fucking push it all in, live off credit cards for 2 months when he would buy buildings. But I'm telling you, and he will tell you this, it had ramifications on him health-wise. Like, he would get headaches. He was stressed the fuck out. He'd have to go to TJ to, like, you know, just find out, make sure he was okay. So some people have a higher tolerance for risk. Jose's tolerance for risk is higher than mine. I would propose, though, that getting 3 to 6 months of liquid capital is a intelligent thing to do, because that will be your buffer, so you don't have to go to credit cards if something comes up. Because credit cards have super high interest rates, right? 15, 17%. It's like racketeering. Like, it's fucking crazy. You know, it's like loan sharking. And this will make sure that if something does come up, you're okay. Plus, you know, with real estate, I'm aware that usually there's cash spurts, not cash flow. So you want to preserve, like, you know, if you have a solid month, you make a bunch of money, great. But then the next month might be as strong. But if you have reserves, like, you're not sweating, right? Now, once we get that 3 to 6 months of reserves. So what do I mean when I say that? So if your personal expenses, let's say, are $5,000 a month, 3 months in reserves would be $15,000, right? Six months in reserves would be $30,000, and you keep it liquid at all times. Now, people will be like, well, you know, you could be investing that money. Yeah, I get it. Warren Buffett keeps about $25 billion in cash at all times, or cash equivalents. Now, people say, well, you know, you could be getting a return. Yeah, but he owns the largest insurance company in the world. He has to be able to deploy if there's a big, you know, catastrophe, like $5 billion at one time. So what that $25 billion does, it allows him to sleep like a baby at night. And that's what this reserve will allow you to do. Okay. So I wouldn't think about it like, oh, it's not the most efficient use of capital. That's not what it's for. It's for peace of mind. Okay. So once we do the snowball effect, we pay off all of the revolving debt that has high interest rates on it. And then we have the 3 to 6 months of expenses. We've built up now all this money that was going out the window to pay off debt, really to make other people rich. Now it's yours. Plus we have the margin, right? Now we can use all of this capital to actually go buy assets that pay us money. So again, I think people come to this conversation and they'll say, well, let's talk about all the different investment vehicles. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you about this first, because 65% of people don't get this right first. And then they try to look for home runs, grand slams, and then they go broke. Drop in the chat if you know people that invested a bunch of money in crypto and lost their ass. Drop in the chat. Let me see.
I know lots of people, bro.
I know lots of people, because they're looking for a grand slam home run, right? They're not willing. Listen, if you're taking notes, listen to me. You want to play games that if you wait, you win. Because nobody's willing to play those games. Yeah, 175K somebody lost.
Damn.
Yup. So what I'm aware of is that's gambling, guys. That's not investing. That's rolling a fucking dice and praying.
Aaron, give the difference between like what an investment is and what a gambling investment and all that. Because I think once I learned that, I was like, oh, it allowed me to look at investments from a different perspective. You guys want to pay attention to this, guys. Yeah.
So I read a book called What I Learned Losing $1 Million. And it's interesting because people should do seminars. It's a shame that people don't do seminars that fuck up. Because if somebody did a seminar, there's two things you can learn from people: how to do something and how not to do something. And they're both equally as valuable. So if there was somebody doing seminars like, hey, here's how I screwed my marriage up, me and Jose would be in the front row taking notes, because I don't want to fucking do that.
Ready, exercise. Let's go, Terrell. Let's go, Hosey. Let's go, Hosey. Work that pancito. Hey, when he says 5, that doesn't mean stop. Ready? It's one time around. Let me get 2 claps and a Ric Flair for one time around. Woo! Let's go visit the tree. It's lonely. What would happen if you didn't pace yourself, Brian? What would happen if you didn't leave room in the tank? You discover a new level, bro. Oh, look at that sunshine. Let's go. Hey, Chris, Terrell, hurry up. We're all waiting for you. Partner. Hosey, asset not in the air, Hosey. You want to be more? Hey, isn't this true? Hey, this is true. You got people on your team that are dragging behind. Let's go. Let's go. All day, every day, no problem. Strength, power.
Get to me, guys, get to me.
Let's go, Hosey. Keep it up, Chris.
Yo, keep moving, don't stop.
That's the way, Terrell. Showing up. Let's go, Chris. You got more in the tank. See, walking, not jogging. Let's go, Brian. You're 12 years younger than me. Let's go. 20 seconds, bro.
Nice work, guys, nice work.
Way to show up, Terrell. There's the collegiate athlete. I didn't see him yesterday, but I'm seeing him today. Let's go, Hosey. Don't quit on me.
Go.
I love hard things. I move towards hard things. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I can do this all day, every day. No problem.
Those people that relied heavily on Airbnb or VRBO being the two most popular, you're in trouble. Yeah, it is a bust for those of you that have no freaking idea what you're doing.
I feel like the days of that are like coming to an end.
No, not coming to an end. They came to an end.
Okay. Fernando, I know you're the resident Airbnb short-term rental specialist, right? And you have something that almost nobody that I know does, which is direct access to real data, because not only do you manage a very large pool of short-term rentals for clients, you also personally own a meaningful amount of short-term rentals. So you can see what's actually happening in the market in real time, which is a huge competitive advantage, because you need an accurate assessment of reality in order to produce a good outcome. And you have that assessment. So people have been asking me all the time, like, what's going on in the short-term rental market? I'm like, yo, we got to get Fernando. So tell us what you're seeing in the data.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a lot to unravel here, but I'm going to talk, just for sake of time, I'm going to talk specifically about regions, right? A lot of people, especially the people that recently got into the game, for me, recently meaning people that got into the Airbnb game within the last 2 years, have a not a true sense of what the short-term rental business is, because the last 2 years have been an anomaly. Those of you, and I'm going to reference this or compare it to the real estate market. The real estate market has been hot. You didn't need any skills to make money in the real estate market in the last couple of years. But today, skill is a necessity. In the short-term rental game, it's the same, right? In the last couple of years, you can put anything on Airbnb and you were going to be successful. It really didn't matter. Today, it matters. And what matters most is not only skill, but data. And data and every company will kill for data. Our company is the same, right? Those people that relied heavily on just one or two platforms, Airbnb or VRBO being the two most popular, you're in trouble. Because, and more importantly, if you didn't take the time to understand your market, you're in big trouble right now. You're losing money because Airbnb is no longer focused on the host. They're focused on the guest. So having that data or that experience, right? We've been in this game for a long time. So having the experience to know what market or who to market to is extremely important today.
So the couple things I'm hearing from you. Number one is that anybody who got into the game from 2020, like onward, they don't have an accurate assessment of reality as far as like what the short-term rental game is about, because anything they did worked. So people can confuse luck with skill.
Correct.
The second thing I'm hearing from you is that in the short-term rental game, just like in the residential resales game, that when times get tough, only the skilled get paid.
Yep.
And the skills that are required in the short-term rental game, number one, is operational excellence, like being a great operator, right? And not solely relying on platforms in order to do all the marketing for you and things of that nature. And then the second is having access to actual data so you can see how things are changing. And then the third thing I wrote down is this major shift, because I read a book called Machines, Platforms, and Crowds that helped me to understand platforms well. And platforms are really about bringing together two people, like a buyer and a seller, or in this instance, like a host and a tenant.
Correct.
And what we're experiencing right now is that the hosts are less valuable than the tenant because there are so many of them, and the platform is no longer optimizing for that side of the equation. They're optimizing for the tenant side of the equation. So if you don't have mechanisms in place for doing your own types of marketing, whether that be social media, whether that be something to drive traffic to your own site, you are experiencing pain at the moment. Is that right?
100%. Great assessment. This Airbnb bust myth that's been going on throughout social media and these quote unquote influencers that got into the short-term rental game, that are claiming that they're losing money. Airbnb is a bust now. Yeah, it is a bust for those of you that have no freaking idea what you're doing. But for those of you with the skills and and more importantly, those of you that have data that drives you, systems that drive you, and processes that drive you, you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
but
you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the same when you go back to the residential resale side, like people who have the skill, they know how to prospect, they know how to pre-qualify, they know how to go on appointments, they know how to handle objections and close. Not only will they be fine, but in an environment like this, there's opportunity. And I'm imagining what we're going to see over the next 6 months is a lot of those operators who don't have the systems, who don't have the processes, who don't have the data, because no longer is it profitable, they're going to have to put their properties on the market and sell them. And for people who understand and have those things in place, that's a huge opportunity for them, right? During COVID, people wanted to be in the middle of nowhere. They didn't want to be around anybody, right? And that worked, and you could buy anything in the middle of nowhere, a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and you'd probably do well. And what we're seeing now is that humans' behavior is changing. That is no longer the case. And those people's bookings are going down dramatically. Is that what you're seeing?
Right. The mountains of North Carolina were extremely popular, in 2020 and 2021. Everybody wanted to get away. They wanted to, and people couldn't, a lot of people, and to a certain extent, some still are, were working remote, right? You're not allowed to go to the office anymore. So they were taking advantage, and they were going to these remote places. And people were they were being sold this idea that, hey, buy this property because you're going to be able to make X. And they were showing the numbers. For example, in 2021, realtors were showing what the numbers, their short-term rental income was for 2020. And in 2021, it was still good. But in 2022, those are the people that I said are hurting because they thought that what was happening in 2020 and what was happening in 2021 was going to continue. And clearly that is not the case today.
In fact, we were having conversations with someone and they were sending me those types of properties. And you said to me, they're partially right. like the vehicle, this is a good vehicle. What's happening though is that if you look at like occupancy rates and kind of income for 2022, you will see even in, towards the end of the year or even like 6 months in, that dramatically is different than what was happening in 2021. So therefore, the prices that these people are asking for properties are not in alignment with what's actually true.
But more importantly, here's what people need to understand. Airbnb is constantly promoting and saying that the ARV, which is the average daily rates, have increased. 100% that have increased now since, in the past couple of years, they're steadily increasing. But the question is, are they increasing enough to cover inflation and to cover purchase price of the property? And they're not, right? Occupancy rates are the same. The ARV is a little higher, but it's not covering the gap between inflation and your purchase price.
My name is Ben Esposito. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm from Mansfield, Massachusetts. Honestly, my overall experience was sort of transformative. It was in many different aspects. You know, there was a lot of folks that came and presented, but we talked a lot about being comfortable with change, which is something that is difficult for me to do. How much that can affect everything in your life, and how overcoming your fear of change can lead to bigger opportunities, better growth, and that for me was the biggest effect.
I really enjoyed the health part of it, because I think that once you get to a certain point in life where you accumulate enough, you're going to regret not taking care of yourself later on in life. So I think learning that information now was very beneficial to me. I also really enjoyed the tax strategies. That's something that I've heard before and was reiterated again this time. And I feel like I have a little bit better understanding of it this time. I loved how anytime I hear Fernando, I think of one thing, like he's a calculated risk taker. And I really think that that's a cool thing to do and that I need to improve on.
The workouts. Wow, the workouts were intense. If we start with day number 1, we were in Fort Lauderdale Beach, right? It was probably 5 in the morning, pitch black outside, and they say, let's just go into the water. I'm like, okay, we'll go into the water, but how deep is the water? The water was deep. The water was way over our heads. And a lot of us, I'm not a great swimmer, I can swim, but the thought of being that far out was extremely scary. I'm not even gonna lie. And I know that some of the other guys probably felt the same way that I did. But what I found is that in numbers, right, there's just this feeling of safety, right? You're around other people that you feel that you can count on, and just having that group was great. And that was that one day. I mean, every day since then, we did incredible workouts, carrying rec bags. Ben actually had to throw me on his back, right, and run with me a few yards. So the workouts were serious, they were great, and I still can't feel my calves.
Let's go. Thank you. So I'm just gonna use my voice. You guys can hear me? Okay, good. So I have a confession to make, guys. I feel comfortable in this room. Energy's good. So I feel like I can unburden myself. There was a time in my real estate career where I would sit in an empty house with cookies that I made, waiting for people to show up. I know, I'm not proud of this shit, but I used to do that. I also used to wear my name tag and stomp around public smiling at people, hallucinating that someone would say, oh my God, this is so strange. I was actually thinking about selling my home. And I don't know anybody, my sister, my uncle, my cousin, my fucking next door neighbor. I know no agents. But because you have your name tag on, I feel like I can trust you, and I'm gonna list my property with you. Yep, I see some heads nodding. You've done this shit too. And this last one, it's really tough. But again, I feel comfortable with you guys. I used to put my face on my yard signs like this, imagining that someone would say, oh my God, that's the most handsome realtor I've ever seen. I have to buy and sell with him. Yeah, done that, right? So, in all seriousness, what I'm aware of is that if we're utilizing strategies and tactics that was working between 2020 and 2021 that are reactive and passive, if you are waiting for people to show up, that is a weight loss program because you're not making any money. Anybody notice that the volumes dropped dramatically? Yeah, you can't tell because all you guys are posting like, you know, happy-go-lucky on Instagram. It's all great. It's not fucking great, don't lie. The volumes dropped 30%. The cost of money's doubled in a year. Interest rates are 7.3%. They were 3% before. Okay? An $1,800 a month payment is now $3,600 a month. Is you posting on Instagram like this gonna change that? No. Write this down. When times get tough, only the skilled get paid. When times get tough, only the skilled get paid. We've moved from a speed environment, who can get to the lead the fastest gets the business, to now we are in a skilled-based environment. Whoever's the most skilled is going to get the business. Because I'm curious, with less listings, are you competing more? 100%. Right? With less opportunities, are you competing more? Yup. What do you think's going to do it? When I ask people, I'm like, what's your competitive advantage? They're like, I treat my clients right. And I'm like, that's fucking dumb. Everybody does that. Like, oh, I put my clients first. Everybody does that. Jack Welch said a long time ago, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. Okay? So as the marketplace shifts and changes, we need the right mindset, the right skills, and the right approach. So that way you can continue to get your unfair share. Who besides me is interested in their unfair share? I'm sorry, are we in the right fucking room here? Who besides me is interested in their unfair share? Because check this out, competition's good for who? The consumer. It is not good for me. I do not want to compete, I want to dominate. Make sense? Okay. Now, how do I know that this is true? How can I speak to you from a place of conviction, the same way I know the sky is blue and the grass is green? I started selling real estate in 2006. And I was being told to sit in open houses, name tag, face on yard signs. I made $13,000 my first year. Not something people would pay you to come tell you how they did that. They wouldn't put you on a panel. They definitely wouldn't invite you on a podcast, and they certainly wouldn't pay you to teach them how you made just above the poverty line. Right? The reason was I didn't have an accurate assessment of reality. I didn't understand what this game was. But once I understood that the money's not in the service, it's in the selling of the service, then it was off to the races. So let me prove my point. How many people in this room have a real estate license? Raise your hands. Okay. We can all perform the same service, correct? Do we all make the same amount of money? No. Why? Nope. Some people know how to sell the service better than others. Does that make sense? Yeah. The average real estate agent, if they go on 100 listings, they only take 20 of them. You know why? Because you guys are going in there, oh my God, you have a puppy, I have a puppy, we should be friends, yay. Yeah, I know what you guys do. Okay? When I'm going on listings, 85% of the time I take a listing. I'll make $800,000, average agent makes $47,000. What's the difference? I'm sorry? Money's clearly different, but what's leading to the money? Skills. Does that make sense? So how do I know that this is true? So I only made $13,000 that first calendar year. I got an accurate assessment. In 2007, up until April, I did 15 transactions. I was on track to do 60 deals, much better, right? And then I get a phone call while I'm prospecting. For you agents, that's where like you make outbound calls. I don't know if you guys know that. And you guys have like spidey sense where like you can feel something's wrong before you know it's wrong? Yep. Okay, I had that feeling. And I did something that if you know me very well, I would never do, which is that I actually stopped prospecting and I picked up the phone. And it was my dad. And I could tell very quickly due to his breath and what was happening that my spidey sense was accurate. My mom had just had a very intense health event that required everybody's undivided attention. He was like, hey, whatever you're doing right now, you need to stop and come home. So I did. Within 1 week, gave away all the listings, all the pendings, rented out the condo that I owned, 6 blocks from University of Florida, and I moved back home and started over from scratch. Anybody besides me ever start over from scratch before? Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Is that easy? No. And then 2008 happened. Yay! How many people have been selling real estate? We're selling real estate in 2008. Oh, this is fucking great. 95% of you have no idea what that was like. You think this is like a huge market disruption? Check this out. 50% of everything on the market was a short sale or foreclosure. Okay? Prices were going down 30% per year. People were having to bring money to closing to sell.
The most I ever did, guy brought 100 grand to sell, just to get rid of it. Okay, now in that environment, after I moved back down from 2007, April, till the end of that year, did 17 deals. Next year in 2008, 50, while everything's imploding. Next year, 75. Next year, 89. Next year, 98. And the next year, 100.
You mean to tell me, Sohail, that you were actually giving your broker between $100,000 and $200,000 a year out of your commissions?
I mean, consistently.